story time where we held up the pictures. But you know what? We have a lot of time to chat with these two amazing people here. So today we are getting to have the privilege and honor of discussing better pets with Leigh Bardugo and Liz Climo. Leigh Bardugo has written no less than 70% of your favorite books.
But no more.
No, bare minimum. #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Familiar, The Invisible Parade, and the Ninth House trilogy. She is also the creator of the Grishaverse, now a Netflix original series, spanning the Shadow and Bone trilogy, Six of Crows duology, the King of Scars duo, and much more. Her short fiction has appeared in multiple anthologies, including the Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy. She lives in Los Angeles and is an associate fellow of Pauli Murray College at Yale University. And just a little sidebar, if you haven't seen her TED Talk on discomfort, you should go watch it immediately because it's really great, profound stuff.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I had to memorize that without notes, and it was a rough go.
Oh my
When
God.
only you have notes, it never occurred to me to think about the fact that you can't have notes until they were like, yeah, you will not have notes. And I was like, I am 50, please don't leave me I don't know my own phone number.
In solidarity, I would put my notebook down, but I feel afraid for what would happen for us. So we'll just not do that. And also Liz Climo. Hello. Hooray! Who is a cartoonist, a children's book author, an illustrator, and an animator. She grew up in the Bay Area of San Francisco and moved to Los Angeles after college to work as a character artist on a little show, you might have heard of it, The Simpsons. Yeah. She is the author of... Sorry,
I've never heard it.
I stepped on the clapping, I'm so sorry. She is the author of the Rory the Dinosaur series, The Little World of Liz Climo, Lobster is the Best Medicine, Please Don't Eat Me. By the way, I love that those two are next to each other in your bio because it sounds like a call and response. Lobster is the best medicine, please don't eat me. And Best Fare Ever. Her books have been translated into 10 languages and have sold millions of copies worldwide. She lives in Los Angeles with her husband and daughter. Thank you both for being here. So while we could be talking about a lot of books today, we are talking about your very recent release, Better Pets, this beautiful children's book. And Leigh, can you tell us what it's about and where it came from?
So this is the story of Yvette and Evan. They are best friends, and they are desperate to own pets, but they are looking for the perfect pet. And then a mysterious man leads them into an emporium full of magical, mysterious, and talented creatures. But there is also an adoption fair next door, so they have some big choices ahead of them. And it was inspired... It's inspired by two things, really. I was a big Phantom Tollbooth girl growing up. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I knew this crowd would understand. So it's full of puns and wordplay and language, but it's also inspired by my dog, Freddie, Fredward. Fredward Mercury, if you must know. Who is our rescue dog, and he came to us. He had actually been adopted and returned, and I know, it's hard, but the thing we learned was Fred is a challenging dog. We needed to work with him. He hadn't been socialized. He fears everything, but he's a very different dog than when we got him, and watching him become our dog and become a more confident dog was a big part of it. And also, we learned he fit perfectly into our lives because we too don't like people or loud noises. So it's about finding not the perfect pet, but the pet that is perfect for you.
That's so beautiful. I'm just gonna sit here and cry about dogs. Dogs are the best. Pets
I
are
know
the
a lot of
best.
my readers were like, what is this?
Why is so cute? That's my fault. Okay, so great segue. Speaking of, Liz drew all of the beautiful artwork for this book, and how did you come to be a part of this project? And what was it that hooked you in?
Well, Leigh is actually an old friend of mine, and so we've known each other socially for a while.
We met at karaoke.
We met at karaoke, that's right.
Liz was performing DMX, and she was really remarkable.
I wanted to say unlike DMX, but I got nervous. email one day from my agent. She was like, so, Leigh Bardugo was wondering if you'd be interested in doing a children's book with her. And I tried I was like, okay, I'm gonna count to 10, I'm gonna go to the dishes, I'm gonna go feed the pets, I'm gonna try really hard to play it cool, and then like 3 seconds went by and I was like, yes, 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 yes. And that's sort of just how it happened.
Well, I feel like you're selling yourself short because Liz was my first pick. I had been following her on Instagram a long time. I loved her work. It's not just that it's cute, it is funny and poignant, and she does so much in just in 2 panels. And as someone who writes sometimes books that are too long, I am blown away by people who can do that much with an economy of language. And I wrote to my agent and I was like, look, she's my friend, so I want her to feel okay saying no. She's very famous, she's very fancy, like maybe she'll want me. So I was very thrilled when you said yes. I was over the moon.
I love hearing the mutual love situation happening here. That's really special,
That's
you guys.
before we toured together. Now she's dead.
I like how I shook my head into the microphone. I was like,
You hear that?
no, I like her even more now.
That's the trick I play. Love me, I hate you.
And this is the last stop, right?
If you couldn't tell, we're a little punchy. We've been touring for a week, and this is our last stop before we go home, and we're like, wow! This is a good time to get honest answers.
All right. So you mentioned the economy of words, which you also do really beautifully in this, and it's so punny. Sorry, now I'm looking at the words to refresh some of these sweet little things. One of my favorite moments was when you said he wouldn't have 7. That would be crazy. He has 6. He wouldn't have 7. That would be crazy. So in figuring out these all these pets, there are all these pets with these really fun punny names. There's the hummingbird. Which somebody had a bad clip of that earlier.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I looked as if I had my They made these little bag charms of the hummingbird, and they're so cute.
They're so cute. The hummingbird, so it's bear with the hummingbird wings. And then my favorite one was the man bat, which is a bat who dresses up as a man to fight crime. So how did those come about? And then how was illustrating the chipmunk? He's in his little monk robe. So I feel like both of you, economy of words and economy of beautiful illustrations. How did that come about?
I mean, I had been collecting these creatures for a while, before I even knew what the story was. Are there writers in the audience? Put your hands up if you like. Oh yeah, don't be shy. I need to know how to eliminate the competition. Artists, maybe some illustrators. Yeah. Yes. Hi. You're good. You can stay. But for me, with stories, I don't always know how they're going to piece together. But when the ideas come, I just keep a little file. And the first creature was the poltergoose. And I was like, what am I going to do with this poltergoose? And then I started sort of collecting them, and it wasn't until I got Fred that I started to get the idea for the story. But I love all of my books have a lot of humor mixed in with the darkness and the murder, and then I sent this script off to Liz, and it came back so much funnier, and my ego was kind of bruised. I was like, God, she is really good. But I remember looking at the handbag hyena, because it laughs at all your jokes, and I remember just his face is so hilarious, and I still find these wonderful little visual jokes all through the book that you created. And I'm so glad you called out the man bat. That makes me so happy.
I do like the man bat. It's funny that the poltergoose was the first one you wrote, because that was also the first one I drew. It was just I sat down, I was like, I gotta draw this poltergoose. For me, I mostly do animal comics, so I post a lot of animal comics online, and I've kind of created this world for myself where I do sort of 2-panel comics with 2 animals or 3 animals speaking to each other. And it's really fun, but I've sort of created this world that's a little limited, and you gave me this gift of you're did you know that you can make animals that are also crossed with other animals or handbags or ghosts, and I'm like, I never thought of that before. I'm just an artist, I have no idea. And so it was just so much fun for me because it really, I feel like I grew a lot as an artist with this book, and it just kind of like really pushed me outside of my own comfort zone in a way that was really, really joyous.
Yeah. Yeah. Very eloquent here. Yeah, that's right. Breathe.
Like you're like the hype man. What? Yeah.
There's also the pocket mouse who never poops in your pocket, only the pockets of your foes. And then he like escapes and skitters through the pages.
He does. He has a whole agenda that he's working on.
He has like a little, like a toilet paper banner that is just kind of like waving.
Pocket mouse agenda.
Well, when they let me record the audiobook for this. I'm sure they
It's
regretted
so
it.
good.
And I had such a good time doing it, but we put all these sound effects in and did all of these voices, so I got to do my best Christian Bale for the man bat. I wear sensible shoes.
And there are a couple video clips of that, of you recording.
Well, that was like my most restrained take because there's not enough Botox in the world to make this stop happening. So it was like literally me just being like, blah, like in all of the audio booth, and I think I might have scared some people when we did the thing. But for me, it was also like Liz's illustrations helped to inform all of that. So it was this kind of collaboration is for me so happy because writing is such a solitary thing. And so getting to do a project where you get to work with another artist and you get to have these ideas and let them feed each other is thrilling.
Yeah. Oh, there's the yeah again. Yeah.
Should just disagree, we can have a fight.
I think you're wrong about that. While I was reading it, and I know I'm not alone in this, I was giggling, I was doing the happy frown, it's like, and then like the surprised laugh, which is the best kind of laugh, when something strikes you and you like don't expect it, and you're like, So it was just a really delight to read, and it also does the brilliant thing that I think children's books are so great at, which it carries more than just fun and levity, and has some profound things to say behind it. So one thing that sticks out is like you talk about the pet ownership aspect of it. So question A, are there things as pet owners, and Liz, do you have pets?
I have so many pets. I have 2 cats, a dog, and 2 fish.
Oh my gosh, all right.
So far. I had no cats when I started working on this book, and I have 2 cats now, and I might end up like Evan, only I will have 7.
That's the magic of the books. But so yeah, thinking about your pets, do you have any like wisdom about, or things you learned about pet ownership that you want to impart upon the good people here?
I mean, I grew up in the age of Frasier. Again, I am old, and everybody had dogs like Eddie, right? Like everybody wanted a Jack Russell, but Jack Russells are a very particular breed, right? Like they need a lot of exercise, they need a lot of work, they're super smart. And the thing about social media now too is there's a kind of idea where a pet, a living creature, becomes an accessory. And to me, I think it's tricky. Like there's a reason so many dogs and cats get surrendered. I think people think, oh, a pet is just going to fit easily into my life. I'm not going to have to put any work or care into them. And so my goal with the book was to really point out, like, you can look away from the trend or the razzle dazzle and find the creature who you feel that instant connection with. And Liz really drew that connection. And I think you had said when you found your creatures, you knew, like.
Oh yeah, all of my pets have found me somehow. Like it's this, like the second I decide I'm like, you know what, I'm open to adopting another dog or a cat, they all just somehow, like, someone's like, oh, here's this dog, isn't it cute, it's up for adoption, and I'm like, that's the dog. Or a friend, I got my dog because my friend was fostering, they were fostering him because they had adopted his sister, and his sister is a super cute, like really fluffy terrier, and Luigi, my dog, like had no applications, but this other dog had like 500 applications, but nobody wanted Luigi. He's got like a pit bull face, and he's all black, and like it turns out he's mostly Chihuahua. I had no idea. I thought he was mostly pit bull, which I was game for because I like pit bulls. But no, he's a 50-pound Chihuahua, so he'll climb into my lap and look at me like, but yeah, they've all found me somehow.
When I bought my first house, thank you Netflix, when I bought my first house, we have some beef, but you know, we finally had a yard, and we had been in an apartment for a long time where we weren't allowed to have pets, so I was following all these rescues on Instagram and checking their websites every day, and this dog came up, and he was listed as Freddie Max, like Ultimate Freddie, and we were like, and Freddie Carter was working on the show, and we were like, this is a sign, we should go meet this dog, and when we met him, we knew. And I like to think he knew too, because he was like, let's go, although he may have just been really anxious to get out of that kennel. He's a dog that does not like other dogs, and so he was like, I don't know why I'm here. I was assured I'd be booked first class. But we knew, and when we brought him home, he's a dog that needs to be groomed because he has hair, and so he was very enormous and very dirty, and so we took him to the groomer, and we were like watching the clock, waiting. We were like, we gotta go get our guy, so we knew he was the one.
He's the one. Freddie's a little special guy.
Oh, he's special.
And I think the pets know too. And the pets know. There's this mutual vibing that goes on.
He's also in the book.
He is. When she sent the illustrations, she drew Yvette's dog, who crosses his paws like a little gentleman, just like Fred.
Oh, my dog does.
I didn't even have to think about it.
This crowd is so nice. Feeding us, bless you.
Well, you also mentioned Netflix.
He is.
We won't go to it.
I've heard of him.
But that does bring up your backlist is freaking stunning, and it spans the generations in a really fascinating way. Whatever age you are, you a little kid, we got a book. You're a middle schooler, we got a book. You're a grown up.
I mean, I would not move from this to Ninth House. Some training wheels might be in there.
Slightly different vibe. So were there different writing rituals? Is it the same writing rituals? You sit down to write Ninth House, you're in the right headspace, and you sit down to write Better Pets, you're in the same headspace. How does that go?
You're presenting this I don't agonize and roll around in a ditch of doubt. I just sit down at my desk and I work. For my novels, I'm an outliner. And a big part of it, I didn't publish until I was 37, and I wanted to be a novelist from the time I was a kid. And learning my process and learning outlining and learning structure, that was the key that unlocked everything. So for novels, I need to know where I'm going. I need to know how the book ends. There's lots of nice gaps that I get to play with, but still. With these, it's different. It's a more organic process, and it's closer to my process for short stories. When I'm writing a short story, I don't want to feel constrained in that way, and I will just get in the bathtub and sort of start talking. It would be weird if I was telling people stories from the bathtub, but maybe not. I don't know. It could be huge on the internet.
That would crush on social media.
I'm just saying, until it didn't. But I think for me, this was a little bit more like that, and it had a more organic process, and then it was a question of winnowing and trying to find the arc out of it. What is it? You just get the idea and then it happens?
Well, I have two things that happen, one or the other. The first thing is I get the idea and it happens, so I'm like, an idea, and I write it down and I'm really excited to draw it. The other thing is I will sit at my desk and I'll stare out my window for about 5 hours, and then I'll go upstairs really upset and nothing happens.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with that. One or the other, yeah.
It is just so reassuring to hear you guys talk about the hard part of the process.
Yeah.
Excuse me, the insecurity, all of the staring into space of it all. And as we know, because you asked, there are a lot of budding writers and illustrators out here. I would wager more than raise their hands, which no, that's fine, guys. You don't have to raise your hands. It's all right. We know you're there. Yeah. So what would you say to budding writers and illustrators? What would you share about refining your craft and about finding that thing that gets you to stick in there?
I got nothing for you. It's rough out there.
Well, I would like to say that I was actually rejected. I applied for the animation and illustration program at my college, which is San Jose State, and I was rejected. And I ended up getting a job on The Simpsons a week later.
Suck it, San Jose State.
Everybody
Big
was
mistake.
I'm gonna walk into San Jose State wearing just a bunch of books and just be like, big mistake, huge. No. But for that, whole week I was like, well, that was, you know, and honestly, not even just that whole week, for pretty much up until this point, there's always self-doubt. Like I never, at least now, I don't reach the point where it's like, I did it, I've arrived, I'm good, I've made it. It's just like, it's a constant sort of like, you're constantly pushing forward. But one thing I have learned is, like, if you just keep doing what makes you happy, and if you're drawing in a way that feels like you, even if it doesn't look like everybody else's, and try not to compare it to everybody else's stuff, then you're doing something right, because you're putting something authentic into the universe that is yours.
Yeah. You know, there's a sort of a whole list of advice I give, you know, read outside of your comfort zone, there's no expiration date on your talent, and that's all very real. I think, you know, I did a whole TED talk about discomfort because it's about the hard days, that the easy days when you feel like a genius are great, but they are, for me, fewer and farther between than the hard days. And I think now we live in this time where we have this, you know, we have AI promising you, well, you don't have to have the hard days anymore. The problem is if you don't have those, you never get the chance to solve the problem, right? And you also never get to experience flow, which is one of the most beautiful things. It's such a beautiful human thing to be in the space of the story or the art or whatever it is you're making or creating, and to lose track of time. And to feel this sort of otherworldly connection with what you're doing. That's what you miss as well. So I think my advice would be to avoid that, to not take the easy route, and to honor your voice, because we make decisions, right? Like our taste is formed by the people we met, the things that were recommended to us. It's like a whole decision tree, right? Like you fall in love with one thing and it leads you to another thing, and that is your creative DNA that builds you up. AI, algorithms, social media, they don't have that. It just absorbs everything, and then it gives you the lowest common denominator. So the more you can cultivate your own voice and reinforce your own voice and find the thing that makes your story, and develop your taste, like that is human and that is thrilling, and that's something that can't be replaced. I feel like somewhere Mark Zuckerberg's like, watch me.
It's where all the magic happens, truly. And then also, like, it made me think, what you all were saying made me think about the other thing that stuck to me when I first read the book was there's so much about comparing that goes on, not just in The Perfect Pet, but it's hard as artists, it's hard as human beings, it's hard existing in social media to not look at somebody else and feel diminished or puffed up. So how would you speak to that sort of thing? I'll just keep it really broad to make it easy for you.
You know, like there's that very classic quote, comparison is the thief of joy, and you know, then that's very real. I always, speaking of puns, so I always talk about Schadenfreude. It's the opposite of Schadenfreude, and it's where you cheer people on, and I think that's the best tonic, is to find people you adore and whose work you love and champion it. And that way, you know, like when they succeed, you feel like you were a part of it. And for me, watching some of my friends just write incredible books, watching their voices get discovered has been an incredible tonic to that feeling of competition. And the other thing is, like, we live in a culture that rewards markers of success, right? But what you have to realize is success is a moving target. Like if 15-year-old me could see me now, she'd be like, you have everything you want, you must be content. I don't know why she would talk that way, but but she would be wrong, because we have to actually cultivate contentment. We have to say to ourselves, you make the bestseller list. Well, was I number one? How long did I stay there? Oh, are you going to get a show made? Did you get a second season? You know, you could constantly be looking for the next thing, and instead you have to find satisfaction in, I get to do this for a living. I get to make things for a living. I get to tell stories for a living. And I get to sit in a room full of awesome people and talk about those stories. That is a powerful kind of magic. And to deny that, like to not live in gratitude with that is, wow, I'm starting to sound like a chin-up chinchilla. In the book, you'll find the many characters and better bets. But I don't need to be a Pollyanna, but I feel like we have to celebrate every success and not always be looking for the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I started working on The Simpsons, I had carried that sort of imposter syndrome with me because I had been rejected from this program, and I was like, okay, well, the Simpsons are gonna find out eventually that I'm not good too. And I had been there for a few years, and I had abandoned my own drawings and just sort of learned how to draw the Simpsons, which was really fun, and I got pretty good at the job, and I was starting to feel comfortable and confident. But I was also working with people who went to RISD or Cal Arts or Art Center, and then I started to have that doubt creep up again where I was like, I can't go back to the drawings that I used to do because I'm not good enough. I've just figured out how to do this job that I'm doing. But that's when I started my blog on Tumblr and started posting little animal comics, and kind of every time I'd post one, I'd run and hide because I was like, I don't want anyone to see. I don't know how the internet works, I guess, because I was like, I don't want anyone to see them. But I knew that if I didn't put them out there, then I wouldn't be brave enough to do them at all. And people like them. Like, not everyone liked them.
And I'm sure they let you know.
Oh, and they let me know. No, there have been many, many tears. There was one time where somebody commented and said, I hate this artist. And I started crying. I was so upset. I don't care anymore. I don't even read them anymore. Because I'm like, that's your right, whatever, sure. But I was so upset, and I was crying, and my husband came home, and I was like, somebody hates my drawings. And he was like, well, you know, there are people out there who hate Will Ferrell. And I was like, I don't know, he just seems like a likable guy, and people even hate him, so don't feel bad. I was like, thanks, that's helpful.
Problem solved. I'm good now. Somewhere Will Ferrell's like, what?
He's in the back of the audience.
You know, I got my first rejection 2 hours after I sent my first query out. Yes! And I remember driving on the 101 and being like, is this the whole story? But the only thing that stopped, like the only way we stop being writers or artists, the only way we fail is if we stop. If we stop creating, then you're done. So you can't stop.
That's a good note to end it on. Before we go into the Q&A, I know a lot of people have questions, so just raise your hand and I will come running to you.
I know it's our last stop. We're just going to stay in this room, lock the doors.
Hi, sorry, I got teary, so I didn't expect to be first.
My goal is to make everyone cry.
It's rough when you're an artist because I feel like I've gone through all of those ups and downs and emotions and things like that. So, but I promise my question is not that heavy. Liz, Leigh, I love you. But Liz, I wanted to ask you, what was the very first animal you ever drew? Do you remember?
That's a really good question. Okay, so I'm gonna answer it with something you didn't ask first because the first Simpsons character I ever drew was Jesus. I just wanted to say that. on my first day of work, my boss Jimmy was like, here's a scene with Jesus. First things first. The very first comic I drew, like when I sat down to do my comics and do my animal comics, was Rory, so the dinosaur that I draw. I remember, and now I'm thinking back to like when I was little, and I remember drawing a chicken when I was, so there was like this cookbook that my preschool did, and we all like kind of like drew pictures of animals in it, and I drew a chicken, and then I drew a hippo that was in the water. It was like in like a bowl of water, and I knew something happened when your hand went in water. I knew that there was like some sort of distortion, but I was like 3 or 4, so I didn't know what that was. So we just got 2 tiny feet. So it's just like a hippo with 2 little feet.
Tell her about the kid in the jar.
Cool, are we going there? Oh, these are Leigh Bardugo fans. I should talk about all
No,
the creepy stuff I'm
so
drawing. So there was another recipe in that book. This was like 1984. So there was this weird recipe that was like going around back then called Preserved Children, and it was meant to be like a whimsical sort of like gather a field and memories and
2 cups of love.
Exactly.
1
like
cup of joy.
So this was mixed in with like tuna noodle casserole and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, and that was one of my mom was like, can you draw this? And I was like, I can try. So rather than, now I probably would have drawn like a kid running through a field. I drew a small child sealed in a jar, and its fingers are pressed against the jar, and it's kind of going. I want that book. Can you guys tell me? I still have it. I'll post a picture of it.
I read that, I was like, you're a secret goth.
I am a secret.
All those pastel colors. Look, I am not an anti-AI purist in the sense that I believe it has real applications for good. I do not believe that making art is a worthwhile application for this thing that does not make art. Unfortunately, the genie is out of the bottle, and so the advice, and the thing I say, and I know people may not be pleased by this, is the problem is not AI, the problem is not social media, the problem is us, okay? We have to actively decide to be human. We have to actively decide not to just consume slop. You have to turn the switch off. And because the market will go wherever it is. And every time I see a thing where they're like, it's the apocalypse, they are creating God, I'm like, all you're doing is juicing somebody's IPO when you say that. It's an algorithm. It's an algorithm. It's a very fast computer. Ooh, it's not conscious, okay? It has no taste. It has no discernment, all right? So let's put it in its place. Have taste. Have discernment. Champion real art. Champion real artists. It is easy to give in. Do not give in. Choose to be human.
Because I genuinely don't know. I seriously don't know if it's Chat GTP or GPT. I ask my 12-year-old daughter all the time, or I say it wrong all the time. She's like, Mom, I'm like, I don't know. I could use it, but if I knew how, I couldn't do it if I wanted to. I have no idea. So Leigh's answer was, I think that was sufficing.
Hi. I have a question for both of you. What finally made you realize that it was an attainable goal to be published? Was there a moment where you're like, wait a minute, like this is very real possibility, whereas a lot of people are just kind of like, yeah, that'd be cool, but it doesn't feel attainable? Was there a moment, and what kind of prepped you for that?
So I mentioned that I'd always wanted to be a writer, but I never managed to finish a book. I'd written a lot of first chapters, right? I'd written a lot of first acts. But the story really starts in the second act, okay? And so for me, I think it was when I finished that first very rough draft of Shadow and Bone. That was truly the first draft of a novel I'd ever completed. And I had told myself it doesn't have to be good, you just need to know that you can do this. But there was enough in the book that I liked, that I felt like, okay, I can go back to this and work on it. And there was actually a specific scene, and there was a line in it, this is very self-aware, look how brave I am. But it was, the woods were silent in their grief. It's not a big fancy line, but for me, it was like, oh, maybe you're not a pretender. Maybe you can do this. But even then, I was like, you have to sort of put your ambition, because when you're working on something, maybe I will be famous. Maybe somebody will make a fan art. Maybe somebody will make a movie. But you have to put all of that aside and just focus on the story. So then it was, okay, maybe I can find an agent. And then it was, maybe we can sell this book. And then it was, maybe we can sell 3 books. Because if somebody asks you if it's a series, you say yes. I don't know if there was, I think finishing that first draft taught me that this thing I had wanted to do for so long was actually something I could do. Because at that point, I was in my 30s and I thought, my tombstone's going to read had potential. So for me, that was a really powerful moment. Yeah.
Well, I got extremely lucky because when I was posting on Tumblr, I actually had a literary agent, Kathleen, who's still my literary agent, reach out to me and ask if I would be interested in writing a children's book. And that was actually always my dream from when I was little. So I was so excited, but it was a very humbling moment because I finally got sort of a taste of like, maybe I am like worthwhile. Maybe I can do this. Like, I have so many ideas, and so I like sent her some ideas for children's books, and she was like, okay, so we'll work on these. And at that point, I realized that writing a children's book is really hard. I thought it was going to be like, like manageable and like, oh, I can draw, kind of like come up with little stories. I realized how difficult it was going to be, and I was going to have to work really hard at it. And so, I did, and I will say that every moment and with every book, I hope this doesn't sound too dark, but I am aware that it can be sort of go away at any moment. So I just try really hard to sort of like enjoy, where I am.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Hi, So, Leigh, you already talked about how the process of writing a children's book is different than your other books, and I'm also curious about how there's also that collaborative aspect with an illustrator. And does working with an illustrator ever change the story, or do you write beforehand and have the pictures in mind and it comes out a little differently? Like, what's that like?
I think if you're lucky, then you get to work with somebody in collaboration. And like when we needed to do a big revision for our editor on this book, Liz came over and we laid out the index cards and we talked things through. And there were times when sometimes our editor would push up, like, "Do you agree? Do you agree?" Like, you know. And so you have some backup for that, which is great. So yes, I think the story does change a little bit, and that is the exciting part of collaboration. Again, this can be a very solitary field, and having people who you trust to help you work through ideas is just so huge, right? People who don't feel that competition, who can put that aside and who can really be a part of making those decisions with you. And I'm working on a graphic novel right now, and I just had my first meeting with our artist, and we both watched all the same terrible movies growing up, and we had this moment where we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. And that's beautiful too, right? Like when you discover the things where, again, you share that taste, you share that creative DNA, I think is very thrilling. And you have to be open to change. Even when we were working on the show, you know, there were times I would flag things and be like, no, or don't do that, or that will break things down the road. But there were other times they would propose a change, particularly in season 1, where I would just applaud because I was like, this is like Kaz and the Darkling are gonna meet for the first time. Like that can't happen in the books, but they can happen over here, you know. Thank you.
You guys, it is just not very often you get to sit in a room with two people who are living out the fruition of their childhood dreams so remarkably. So what a gift to get to share this moment with you and to celebrate with you and to like hear your spirit and be a little bit filled up by that. So thank you both so much and congratulations, last night of Thank you.